when I was 10, I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis, and I was really young, so I didn't really understand what it was. And that was, about 15 years ago now, 16 years.
And what exactly is it?
So it's an inflammatory bowel condition. And obviously where you can't see it, it's very hard for people to see that there's actually anything wrong with you. And I think it really, there were a lot of feelings which I perhaps had never really talked about, I'd never really identified. And I think sitting through those therapy sessions and really just tackling those issues, it makes a huge difference.
Hello, I'm Dr. Sheri Jacobson, and this is Therapy Lab, a podcast dedicated to therapy, mental health, and the art of well-being. In this episode, we are joined by model Clarissa Wright to talk about her life and work. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I am 26 years old, grew up in Southampton. That's where I live, and I'm a fashion graduate, so I did 3 years at Southampton University doing fashion buying and merchandising, and I kind of do like a bit of influencing, a bit of modelling as well, so I've kind of always been involved in the fashion industry pretty much all my life. So that's kind of like my passion and where I kind of want to take my career, as well as sort of like just generally looking into actually counselling courses and things like that as well, which would be really good.
Great. So what sparked the interest in counselling?
I think it's because growing up myself, I've had a really difficult time. I went through a lot when I was younger, kind of started off when I was 10, I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis, and I was really young, so I didn't really understand what it was. And that was, about 15 years ago now, 16 years.
And what exactly is it?
So it's an inflammatory bowel condition, and obviously where you can't see it, it's very hard for people to see that there's actually anything wrong with you. It can be quite, it can be quite tough as well. It is a chronic condition, so you can go into remission, which is great. But mine is maintained by medicine, but I take a lot of medication, which is also difficult in itself. There's side effects to that, and also I just think there's a certain stigma around it, even to this day. So it was tough for me growing up because, like I say, people didn't really understand it because you can't see it. It's one of those conditions as well, I think. It's very easy to make fun of people because you have to keep rushing to the toilet or it smells or you might have an accident. At my worst, that's happened and that's just the reality of it. But when you're young as well, people just don't understand. So there is that. There's the stigma around it because there's a lack of education around it, I think. And it is something which does run in my family. So my brother's got Crohn's disease, which is very, very similar. And my mum had ulcerative colitis and Crohn's. So that was quite tough. So yeah, I mean, having that has been something which, it is a huge part of me, but it's something that I really have this sort of burning passion to kind of help other people through as well. And I think that's kind of led me kind of here today, but it's also led me into thinking about using what I know about the fashion industry, but maybe taking a slightly different route. So I've got my fashion degree, but by doing counselling or perhaps going into that side of things, I'm hopefully going to be able to give back to other people and help other people kind of raise a bit of awareness, educate them, and I'm also, I've been told I'm quite a good listener as well, so I feel like I can build upon what I've been through and my kind of struggles with depression and anxiety and all the other things that sort of happened in my life, and I can use that for good. So
we'll get to more about the counselling education. So you were diagnosed with ulcerative colitis at 10.
Yeah.
Was that the first major setback or challenge that you had, or were there earlier ones?
No, I think that was it. I went through a stage when I was a baby where I was really poorly, but obviously I wouldn't have known about that. So it was more an effect on my mum. But for me, yeah, that was the first sort of major stage, and then it was kind of a bit of a snowball effect after that. And it you know, I hate people pitying me, but there, you know, I've had a few people say to me, sort of like, oh, you've had a bit of a tough life, haven't you, for 26? And I guess in many respects, yes, but you've got to put it into perspective. You know, there's people much worse off than myself, so I'm just really lucky that I have gone through all that, and I think it has made me the person that I am today.
When you say it's snowballed,
yeah, so when I was 10, obviously I got the colitis. My mum and dad broke up, so, you know, they split apart, and I think that's tough on anyone, especially like a family. And then my health kind of just was a bit like a yo-yo, you know, no one really knew what to do with me. They were going to remove my bowel when I was quite young. I think I was about 12 by this time, because just nothing seemed to really be working, and I was really quite poorly. And my mum fought kind of against that and said, you know, she's so young, you're not doing that to such a young girl when she's practically got her whole life ahead of her, like there's got to be a way. So we ended up going to a different consultant, found someone else. And I guess he just found what was best for me, and the right level of medication, played about with that for a bit, and things did get better, but that took years, like years and years and years, best part of my adult life, my childhood life, into like being an adult. I was regularly sort of in and out of hospital, tests, just all sorts has happened. And then when I think I was in my GCSEs, was getting migraines every single day. No one knew what was wrong, every single day for a couple of months. And I think as well, you know yourself more, you know, better than anybody else. And my mum could tell that there was something not right, but the doctors just didn't seem to be listening. And then one day I had like this really funny episode, just couldn't stand up straight. My speech was slurred, sort of falling about, and mum rushed me to the hospital, and basically they believed that I had a mini stroke because I had a blood clot in the left portal vein in my liver. Gosh. So that was really tough. I couldn't speak, read, write for a week. Yeah, but it was frustrating for me, and I can see definitely for people, like my grandpa had I think 3 or 4 strokes, and I didn't really know the best side of him, but the side that I did know, you could almost see the frustration behind his eyes. Like, he wanted so desperately to talk and write and have a conversation with you, and he couldn't. And I was the same. I remember trying to write a message to my school friends to say I'm okay, like, don't worry, I'm just in the hospital, but I'll be fine. But just, even though what I thought I was saying on paper and typing out is just letters, just that didn't mean anything, you know? So that's probably been one of the toughest points of my life, easily, and extremely scary for everyone in the family. So, I kind of made it through that, and then I have had numerous things since then as well. Sadly, I have, where they believe polycystic ovary syndrome as well, which is quite common in women, but, you know, it's just one more thing to add to the list. It's been a tough time. It has been a tough time. Yeah.
Sure, have had your share of challenges. And you mentioned anxiety and depression. Was that as a result of medical issues, or?
Do you know what? I don't think that's where it started, but funnily enough, where it actually started was I was at college, and I had gone back to college. I'd left school. I hadn't done so well in my A-levels as much as I wanted to be. I wanted to get enough good grades to go on and be a doctor. And unfortunately that didn't happen. So I went back to college, tried to change my career path. And I think it was because I was a little bit older than the people that were there and the group I was getting involved with. And I found like I went through a bit of a difficult time. And I've never really understood bullying as such, because I've always been kind of well known at school and maybe slightly the popular kid, but I think just because I was so well known and I'd been there all my life, I just never needed to find my place. Whereas when I was at college, I found it quite challenging, and it might have been because of the age gap. So I kind of got myself involved, you know, with a group and stuff, and we got on really well, but then I just found things started to get on top of me, and I don't know what happened. It was almost like a little flick goes off, like a little switch, and that's when I think like the I can't even speak, the depression started to get a lot worse. I really started to struggle. My weight got really low. That was a way of me, I think, controlling how I felt and what I could do about myself and my own body, because I didn't have control in the situation about how people were making me feel. By controlling what I ate and what exercise I did and this and that, that was my control. And I was able to then take that back. So I did get really, really thin. And I actually, my consultant at the time said, you know, if you carry on, I will admit you to, I'll admit you basically to a ward. So I was definitely borderline anorexic, but like heavily so. So that was a really tough time for me as well, yeah. And it was kind of, don't know, I think at that time I was in sort of a state of denial. Didn't really want to accept that that's how I was. To me, the way I saw myself when I looked at myself in the mirror was, I'm fine, or I'm still not skinny enough, you know, I'm not where I want to be.
Right.
But the reality was, if I look back at photos now, it's quite scary, yeah.
Did you have professional help at that time?
No, so I was very lucky that I was on the borderline. My mum tried her best, bless her, and I think, you know, to think actually what I put her through at that time is, I think, was it was the only thing that actually made me snap out of it. Took a long time, mind you, maybe 6 months of just being in constant denial, and then I think it came up to Christmas and I just saw what it was doing to my mum, and that was it. It's just, I just decided to help myself, really, and then things got better from there.
Anything in particular that you did that helped?
I don't know, to be honest. I think I decided to stop being so concerned with counting calories and going to the gym and this and that, and I just decided to enjoy Christmas. I think that was the first step. Just enjoy Christmas, you know, have your roast, be around family, eat a few chocolates if you want to. Just do you, and stop trying to control everything so much. And I've always been like that. I've always been a person who needs to have control of their life, and when I feel like I've lost that, kind of gone off the reins, then I struggle. I think that's when the sort of the depressive tendencies come in and stuff, and the anxiety gets worse, because it's like I've lost control of myself. So then, like, I don't know, it's almost like having a little voice in your head, you know, trying to tell you you're not good enough and you can't do this, and all those dreams that you have, you won't be that successful, and it's tough, and I feel so much for people out there who really struggle with it, and like you see all these people on TV who do, like, you know, big shows and stuff, and then they feel like they have no way out, and that, I think that's just horrifying, really, that they don't have those people that they can turn to. They feel like that's their only hope, and it's tough.
So it sounds like as if like you pulled yourself out of it. Did you have support around you? Was anyone on your side, do you feel?
Yeah, 100%. My mum and my family have always been on my side. She was literally my rock. She did everything for me. I mean, I couldn't have done it without her. She was quite, bless her, she was a strict mum, but also just like my best friend as well. But I think I needed that strictness, because if somebody had just let me do what I want, things could have been a lot worse. I can't remember if I was with my ex-boyfriend at this time, but he certainly helped as well. I think having someone my age and being sort of just trying to be normal, you know, let's go out for dinner, like let's enjoy ourselves at the weekend, you know, and you can do that. You don't have to live in this sort of, it's a very dark place to live in, you know, constantly needing to feel that you can't eat this, you can't do that, you have to exercise, and you can't switch the little voice off in your head, you know, and that's tough.
Yeah. Had you considered seeing a therapist at that point or subsequently?
No, do you know what? I never did. And it's funny, it's actually only when I was 21, when my mum passed away, or 22 actually, that I So she passed away when I was 21, but it wasn't actually until I was 22, till the summer, I think, when I went to go see a counsellor. And it's really interesting that it wasn't even just after Mum passed away. It was actually, my mum passed away in the December, and then I was with my ex-boyfriend at the time, and we'd been together such a long time, like 3 years, and then the relationship broke down, and I kind of felt like I'd lost my home, I'd lost my mum, I'd lost him. I kind of really felt like I'd lost everything, and I really lost my place in the world. I didn't know what I was doing, and I thought, you know, I need to help myself, because otherwise I don't know what's going to happen. And I think for me that was the first step, that was the biggest step. And it was tough knowing what to do with all those emotions and feelings you've never felt before, you know. How do you deal with someone saying like, you know, your mum's not coming back? So all that kind of emotion, anger, that pain, that hurt, I had to do something with it. Otherwise I just would have, don't know what I would have done.
What an intense period with so much loss.
It was a lot. It was a lot in such a short space of time. That was the thing. And I think that's kind of where I go back to what I said earlier, like, you know, it was kind of like a rolling effect. And at the time, it was really the worst period of my life, that sort of year period. I don't think things really got better till the end of 2017, probably, after I'd seen the therapist a little bit. And I started to just think, you know, you've got to work on yourself. You've got another year of uni. You've just got to concentrate on you, because that's what she would have wanted for you. So you've got to do this for her, if nothing else. Yeah.
And did you lose your mum unexpectedly?
It was unexpected that she passed away, but she'd been quite poorly for quite some time. Mum was, you know, unfortunately, she had a fair few things going on. Sadly, I get the same from her, I'm afraid. But she had colitis, she had Crohn's, obviously. She had breast cancer, as I told you earlier. She was a celiac, but she nearly died from celiac disease because they didn't know what it was, because it was in the very early stages, like 30 years ago or something, 35 years ago. No one really knew what this was, so they didn't know how to treat her. And then, and she eventually died of, I think it was a perforated bowel. She had cancer in her bowel as well. And then her heart just stopped, just everything, just like one by one, just like a ticker, just shut down. But it's, you know, I have these days where it hurts more than anything, and I have these days where I think, you know, not to be horrible, but I kind of am not glad that she's not here, but with the, you know, how COVID has been and stuff, and how much pain she was in, and I wouldn't have wanted her to be in that pain and suffering as she had for so many years. And I also wouldn't have wanted this for her either, like how the world had changed so much. She'd been through such a lot already, and I just, it's, in some ways it's kind of bittersweet, you know what I mean? Because at least she's in a better place. So.
I hope you're enjoying this episode of Therapy Lab. If you'd like to transform your life with therapy, get 10% off your first session with any therapist on harleytherapy.com. Just use the code THERAPYLAB when you book your session. And then your hunt for a therapist, how did you go about looking for one?
Wasn't the easiest thing in the world, actually. I thought looking for a counsellor was a lot easier, but I think there's so much choice and you can really get it wrong, but because also there's so much choice, it's like, I think I remember going onto Google and just typing in like accredited counsellors and finding, what's the website?
BACP?
That's it, yeah. Looking through them, you know, people in the local area, but when you're, you know, it's quite daunting when you've got 500 people, 100 people or whatever, and you think, well, who am I supposed to go to? And then I did come across a lady who is located in Romsey back home, and she was lovely. She really helped me through really probably, like I say, the darkest time of my life. And, you know, there's feelings dealing with my mum and the losses that I'd been through. And I think as well, they were kind of like the catalyst for everything else. And, you know, everything in the past as well, even like childhood and upbringings, things like that. I had a great upbringing, but it wasn't always easy. And I think it really, there were a lot of feelings which I perhaps had never really talked about, had never really identified. And I think sitting through those therapy sessions and really just tackling those issues, it makes a huge difference.
So you came across her through a directory, so the British Association of Counselling and Psychotherapy. How many sessions did you have roughly, or how long did it go on for?
With that lady, I did have quite a few, to be fair. I had a kind of a period every week. I think I was going for maybe 3 months. And then I felt like it was getting really expensive, which was a huge reason why actually I stopped. And I also didn't want to become dependent on needing someone to kind of hold my hand. It was more stopgap, like finding ways to help me deal with what I'd been through. So I then stopped for some time, and then I managed for a good while, I don't know, 8 months or something, but then things started to get on top of me again. But the best part about going to a counsellor, and actually funnily enough, I'm actually starting to go to one again for sort of, feelings I'm going through at the moment. I'm going to my first session again on Friday. I think the best part about having counselling is I can recognise the issues straight away, and then as soon as I feel that feeling coming on, rather than letting myself get to such a bad point, I don't let myself get anywhere near there, and I just use it to kind of pick me up. Do you see what I mean? But I also think I think it's so important to talk about things. I don't think enough people do. They drown it with alcohol, or let's not talk, or just toxic things for you, drugs, alcohol, gambling, anything to hide the emotions and not have to discuss them. And I do get that, because it's frightening. It's scary talking about how you feel. It is. But it's also like the most important thing to do, in my opinion, because you're only covering up how you feel. You're just masking, taping it, sticking plasters on it, hoping it will get better. You're not actually healing it. So.
And besides therapy, any other expressive outlets that you have where you can talk or verbalize your feelings?
I mean, I do talk to family and friends. I'm probably not the best at talking to family, to be honest, and I think it is just because they are so close to you. My family have been through the same as I've been through. So to then put my troubles on my brother, who's also lost his mum, or to put stuff on my dad, who's quite quiet, quite a closed book, completely the opposite to myself, plus, to talk about my mum could be perhaps a little bit difficult because it is his ex-wife and stuff. I don't know, I feel it's too close to home. So I think that's why I like talking to somebody that I don't really know, because it allows me to just open up about things which are difficult to talk about. And I think kind of there's a comfort in talking to strangers, because they don't know you. There's no judgment.
I noticed you're also active on social media, Instagram in particular. Do you use that as a platform to vocalize messages and some of your feelings, or is it to inspire others?
I would like to do more of it. So I was big on social media massively, I did influencing for a time, maybe 2 years, and really took it seriously. My platform was growing, and I was really taking the modelling seriously. But COVID kind of, got better, got worse, got better, got worse. And then I feel like now, funnily enough, now we're coming out of it, I've lost my passion for doing that side of things, because I look back on the kind of influencing I was doing, and it's very fickle. It is, people look at my pictures and think, oh, she must be really happy, or this, that and the other. It is very fickle, and it is just, what I decided to portray to other people. And my passion's always been, like I say, to help people. If I can make someone else's day better, then I will do. And I once did a video just talking about my colitis and put it on Instagram. And it's mad, actually, the difference in how much response I got to that, and how people just praised me and said, you're so brave for talking about this. And it really was like 15 minutes of me just talking to the camera. It wasn't anything professional. But the buzz that I got from that over trying to sell, I don't know, a top, it just was completely different. But yeah, I was doing good, and I was helping other people, and the messages I got from it as well was just amazing. So for me, I'm kind of really having a rethink of everything, and I think that's why I do really want to push sort of my fashion and where I'm going, because it's my love, it's what I love doing, but incorporate it with, you know, raising awareness and doing more filming like this and podcasts and talking to people and using my platform for good, you know, having a little revamp, I guess.
Yeah. And so back to your counselling course, have you found one? Have you started it?
Yeah, so I'm starting counselling again on Friday.
Sorry, your counselling course?
Oh, my counselling course?
Yeah.
No, so I'm not too sure actually about it. It's like I say, it's something I want to do, but I wasn't sure exactly how to go into it. So I have had a look on Google, but it's tough to know what you need to do. I don't want to start something, especially as they can be quite expensive, and then not be on the right course. But it is definitely something I'm looking into, yeah.
I'm talking a little bit about your self-care toolkit and the things that you do to keep you well. Do you have any habits, healthy habits that you can share with us?
I mean, I like to keep active, keep myself healthy and stuff. Not been so good at it lately. I think that once again that comes into things in my life have been difficult lately, and I've been struggling, you know, mentality-wise. So once you get stuck in kind of a bit of a funk, it can be hard to get yourself out of it. So I really made a conscious effort to try kind of break things down, and I think that really helps me, rather than looking at the big picture of, you know, I don't know where I'm going to be in 5 years, and then everything starts getting a bit too daunting if you just break it down little step by little step. So started going back to the gym again, and just kind of looking after my mind, looking after my body as well. I think eating healthy, eating clean is really important. I personally love reading and kind of meditating. I journal as well. Every day I write out my gratitudes, and I just think it's such a simple little thing, which takes really no more than like 5 minutes. But it's funny when you've had a rubbish day, if you just write down a few things about how good your day has been, it can just change everything. Yeah.
I think we're hearing a lot about journaling, and of course it is a form of expression. Instead of the written, instead of the talking sense, it's a written word, isn't it? Where can people reach you and see what you're up to?
Yeah, so anybody can reach me on my Instagram, on my Instagram handle, which is Riss Wright, so it's RISSWRIGHTT. Please send me a message on there. I'm public as well, so anybody can send me a message. And it would actually just be lovely to, you know, hear from people that this has touched, or people that just want a chat or conversation, want to talk about colitis or mental health, because it is so important to me, and I really feel like this is kind of step one on my kind of journey of where I want to go with things and where I want to take my life. So,
well, all the best with that, and also for your counselling, resumption of counselling on Friday. And thank you so much for sharing about your journey and the call outs to others to support them and helping to spread the message as well, that we can all support each other, and that going through difficulties is not unusual, and it's about how we work through it and stick together in the process. So thank you very much, Clarissa.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Take care for now.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Therapy Lab. Do hit subscribe to keep up to date with new episodes. To find private, affordable therapy from around the world, visit harleytherapy.com today to transform your life. We'll see you next time.